let's do some printing. Today we will be focusing on lowercase m and also on lowercase n. These letters look very similar to each other. The lowercase m is essentially a doubled up lowercase n. Let's get started. We will begin with lowercase n. To start, put a starting dot right on the dotted line. Lowercase n fits between the dotted line and the bottom line. Next, go straight down to the ground. If you'll remember, it's much the same way we started a lowercase I. However, instead of lifting your pen, what you should do is bounce right back up, the same line you came down. As you get closer to the dotted line, begin a forwards rainbow. As you complete the forward rainbow, go straight down to the ground. You'll notice that the forwards rainbow touches the dotted line. Let's try it again. 2 finger spaces. Start on the dotted line. Go straight down to the ground. This time, don't pick up your pen. Bounce up the same line you just came down. And as you get close to the dotted line, begin your forward rainbow. Straight down to the ground. When you start the forwards rainbow, you'll have to begin before you get to the dotted line. Otherwise, you will have a flat top on your N. Start on the dotted line, go straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. 2 finger spaces, go to the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. 2 finger spaces. Start at the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. When you print a lowercase n, you don't need to pick your pen up at all. Keep it on the paper. Let's do one last one. Start at the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. Erase your strip. Let's see if you can spot some mistakes in the following lowercase n's. See if you can find what is wrong with this lowercase n. Watch the way that I'm printing it. Did you notice that I went up instead of down? When you print a lowercase n, you need to go down, the same way rain falls from the sky. Never start on the ground and go up. Let's try it again. Start on the dotted line, go straight down to the ground, just like how rain falls. Now you can bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. That's much better. See if you can find the mistake with this lowercase n. Oftentimes, children print the rainbow first instead of the straight down line, and they end up with a lowercase n that looks similar to this one. This was not printed correctly. The very first step in printing a lowercase n is the straight down line. Then bounce up, and last the rainbow and straight down to the ground. You can see the difference by looking at these two. Last but not least, be careful when you print a lowercase n. If you start above the dotted line, your lowercase n will look a little bit like an H. The higher you start, the more your letter will look like an H. Make sure you start on the dotted line so that your letter can definitely be identified as a lowercase n and not confused as an H. We will move on to lowercase m next. Very similar, but with one extra bump. Start once again on the dotted line. The lowercase m will fit between, excuse me, the lowercase m will fit between the dotted line and the bottom line. Start on the dotted line, go straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. That looks just like our lowercase n. You're not done yet. Bounce up one more time. Forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. Instead of stopping after your lowercase n, you'll need to keep your pen on the paper and bounce up one more time, like this. Start at the dotted line, go straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground, and here we go. Bounce up one more time. Begin another forward rainbow, and then go straight down to the ground. You're allowed to bounce up the lines that you've already come down. Again, start at the dotted line, go straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. Here comes our second bounce. Bounce up one more time, forward rainbow, and straight down to the ground. Make sure both of your bumps on your M are equal and balanced. Go to the dotted line, go straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground, bounce up again, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. We'll do one final lowercase m. Go to the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground, bounce up again, forward rainbow, and straight down to the ground. See if you can find the mistakes in the following lowercase m's. Watch how I print this lowercase m. See if you can pick out the mistake. Can you find the problem? Hopefully you noticed that this lowercase m has a loop in the middle. That's because I didn't bounce up particularly carefully. Watch again as I try, a little bit harder. Straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground, and this time when I bounce up, I will make sure to go exactly on the same line I just came down. That looks much better. Notice this lowercase m does not have a loop in the middle. Be careful when you do your bounce up. Make sure you're going up the same line you just came down. See if you can find the mistake with this lowercase m. Hopefully you notice that this lowercase m is much too big. In fact, it's much more like an uppercase m. You have to make sure lowercase m fits between the dotted line and the bottom line, like this. That's a much better size. This one was too tall. And one more mistake. Do you notice that this lowercase m drops down below the bottom line? This should not be here. Lowercase m needs to sit comfortably on the bottom line, like this. That's better. Be careful you don't have pieces dipping below the bottom line. Now it's time to make patterns with lowercase n and lowercase m. My pattern will be NNM, NNM. Do it with me. Start at the dotted line, go straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. Go to the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. Now for a lowercase m, start at the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. Start at the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. N, N, M, N, another N, start at the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. N, N, M, N, N, and M. Start at the dotted line, straight down to the ground, bounce up, forward rainbow, straight down to the ground, bounce up, and another forward rainbow, straight down to the ground. Make your own pattern this time using lowercase n and lowercase m.